Oh, hello and welcome to What Are We Talking About with Jamie Jakes. I am him, and today we are going to talk about the top fantasy football risers leading into preseason. In this episode, we got 10 names of guys that I believe are on the rise or guys that I am back in on after being out on them throughout the offseason. We have a lot of newer names. We've got some rookies on the list. So let's just get right after it and talk about the top risers leading into this fantasy football season at the moment. My number one pick has to be Rashee Rice. The reason he was falling in ADP was obviously because he was predicted to be suspended. People were predicting maybe like a 4-game suspension, which would obviously decrease the opportunity he has to work with the team, to get back in rhythm with Patrick Mahomes early in the season, and just come in shape in week 5. Now it's looking like he will not be suspended this season. It'll probably be a next year thing with Rashee Rice. Before all this news came out, he was going in the 2-3 turn. He was going like early 3rd round in fantasy football drafts, and I was taking him. So now that he's fallen so far in ADP, I love taking Rashee Rice. You can see where he's currently going in drafts at the moment. Jaden Reed, Calvin Ridley right before him, Chris Godwin right after him, which he just flipped over Chris Godwin, which I think is appropriate. If you miss on him, don't worry, because you got Xavier Worthy a few picks later, but Rashee Rice is a name I am highly rising on. I think the fantasy football community will be rising on him very, very quickly. So if you're in best ball, start taking him now, because he's the cheapest he will be all offseason barring injury. And if you maybe it's a dynasty buy if you have somebody who's a little bit behind the times who is anticipating a suspension this season. Number 2 on the list, and now we are going to go all the way to the bottom of the barrel here with this next one, will be J.K. Dobbins. He is low in ADP, still being around the 18th pick, 17th pick in best ball drafts. J.K. Dobbins, he's going to be on what I assume is going to be a good offense with the same offensive coordinator that he had in Baltimore, who had him being the lead back with Gus Edwards being the goal line back. Gus Edwards came in less healthy than J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins went to that Achilles factory that Aaron Rodgers went to, and he did have a very early in the season Achilles rupture. I think it was like week 4. So he's had plenty of time to recover from this injury, and it seems like he's going to be the lead back there. He's healthier than Gus Edwards. Kamani Vidal is an afterthought at this point. He's a practice squad guy. So I think J.K. Dobbins could inherit a big role this offseason, and he's kind of talking about it like he is going to get that role and that he's excited for it. J.K. Dobbins currently the running back 50. Aaron Rodgers going right ahead of him. Rashad Bateman, Kamani Vidal going right after him. Vidal is a practice squad guy. He's 4th string in the lineup, and he was a late round, small school running back draft pick. You know, a lot of people might have liked him coming out of college, but J.K. Dobbins is healthy. He's looking great in camp, just movement wise. I think he's looking fine. And just the fact that you can get him a couple of picks before Vidal, where I could see him being the lead back in this offense, or worst case scenario being the relief back, the handcuff back for Gus Edwards, who might be the lead role guy this season. J.K. Dobbins is a guy you have to pick at 159 overall. Next 2 names I'm going to pair together because I just looked at myself in the mirror one morning. I'm like, hey, I need to be drafting Keenan Allen and Caleb Williams. Number 1, very, very easy stack. Keenan Allen, super cheap. He did have the injury last year, has injury concerns this year. He's getting older, of course, but when he was on the field, he was averaging wide receiver 3 per game this year. And even with those injuries, he was so dominant, he was still wide receiver 8 when it was all said and done. He was super dominant last year, and I expect him to be super dominant this year. I think Caleb Williams, what everyone said, he's the best prospect since Andrew Luck. Everyone said that since he was like in high school. And now here we are, and now we're afraid to draft Caleb Williams at QB 13. It's just doesn't seem right, especially when you see where Odunze is going right after Keenan Allen. DJ Moore is going really, really early. So we have all these high expectations for his receivers, but not necessarily Caleb Williams. You're just getting a pretty good discount at the moment. And I think the market is kind of overcorrected for rookie quarterback expectations. He had a lot of weird stuff in the offseason, weird stuff with like fingernail painting, and everyone just wants to hate on him. It's fun to hate on him. What I see is a passionate guy, fucking Gen Z, like that's just how they are. But I think he's going to win over that locker room. I think he's a natural leader, and he's got a little bit of a rushing floor as well. He did rush in college. I don't think he's going to be able to do it quite as well in the NFL with the increase in speed in the defenders, but I think Caleb Williams is a great pick, and I think you're getting a great discount in Keenan Allen because he could be the lead receiver, probably will lead the team in receptions this year if he does stay healthy. Keenan Allen's a great guy to pick because he's kind of in that dead zone right here where there's a bunch of guys I just rather not have on the team. James Cook, Anthony Richardson, two guys I really like going after him. So I'm just looking at it like if I don't get a premium quarterback, I'm probably going to side with Anthony Richardson as like the last shot at a guy who could be QB1 this season. James Cook, I think he's going to have a lot of volume this season again. Maybe he gets a little bit lucky with touchdowns. Maybe Josh Allen stops running the ball as much. Probably not, like, let's be honest. But, there's a pretty solid floor there with James Cook. So if I go wide receiver to start, I'm probably going to take James Cook there over Keenan Allen. But if I need a third receiver on my team, if I need a fourth receiver on my team, and I'm pretty happy with where I am at a quarterback position, or Anthony Richardson gets picked early, I'm like, hell yeah, give me Keenan Allen over a quick scroll down of guys like Rashee Rice, Chris Godwin, maybe try and get them around the turn, which is really something that you can reliably do sometimes. I just don't want to not bet on Keenan Allen because we know his ceiling is wide receiver 3 again this year if Caleb Williams pans out. I know rookie quarterbacks don't usually produce like that, but he's supposed to be different, right? What if he is different? What if it works? That's my take on the situation in the Bears. I just don't want to entirely be fading that offense. And you're getting a pretty good discount with Keenan Allen, and you're definitely getting a great discount with Caleb Williams, because you're getting him at such a crazy discount. He's currently going 113, QB 13. Javonte Williams, Brock Purdy going right before him. Not much of a Javonte Williams guy, just because I think that offense isn't going to be great, and he could have a little bit of a timeshare there in Denver. So I'm a little bit lower on him. I don't really see the ceiling in that. Brock Purdy, if I have Brandon Ayuk on my team, who I do draft a lot, and assuming he is re-signed, but at the time I'm recording this episode, he is not signed to a team at the moment, I might take Brock Purdy. But if I have Keenan Allen, I am definitely taking Caleb Williams. If you're a Rome Odunze guy, which I'm not, it's fine if you are, I get it, and you draft him too, I'd definitely take Caleb Williams because it's just such a cheap discount. Could be your second quarterback on your team, third quarterback on your team even at this point in the drafts, and it just seems too valuable to let go. Next on the list, and this is going to be a little bit scary to say out loud into a microphone, but Nick Chubb. Year after year, you never want to bet on guys coming off of injuries. It usually doesn't happen, buying the injury dip. And it really only works 20% of the time. So saying Nick Chubb is going to be the exception to the rule is a little bit scary to say, but if anybody's going to be the exception to the rule, I think we all know it's going to be Nick Chubb. He is cutting and running at full speed in practice, off camera. Those sons of bitches, let me see how he looks. He is on PUP. There's no timetable as to when they get him back. It'll be probably a little bit of an easing him in process, kind of like what we saw with Breece Hall last year. But at the end of the day, after seeing him squat with the unsteady bar, 500 pounds, after seeing him do single leg jumps over a cone on the bad knee, after seeing him come back from an injury like this in the past, he is just the definition of a meathead. He is a gym rat. Because he's a gym rat, I think he's going to kind of maintain that strength and get back to full strength. We still got a lot of time here. We're still 5 weeks from the season. That's 5 more weeks to Nick Chubb to kind of get back to Nick Chubb form. And the good news is where you're buying him, you really don't need him to get back to Nick Chubb form. You need him to get back to, pretty good production, that offensive line stays healthier this year for Cleveland, it is sky's the limit for Nick Chubb once he takes over, which the team expects him to eventually take over at some point. They just won't say when. So Nick Chubb is a guy, he's going right next to Jerome Ford. So depending on your build, if you're going 0 RB and you need a guy to produce for you for the first 6 weeks of the season, I would definitely go ahead and take Jerome Ford. But if you already have 2 solid running backs, 3 solid running backs, and you want to add a guy with a high ceiling like a J.K. Dobbins later on, or like a Nick Chubb in the middler rounds, I think it's a great option. So he is currently going around Tua and Goff. If you have Jameson Williams, if you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, and you need a second, a third quarterback, take Goff. Same thing if you take Jalen Waddle, or if you luck into Tyreek Hill early in the draft, take Tua if you need another quarterback. But if you're doing a robust RB build, take Nick Chubb. If you're doing a 0 RB build, go ahead and take Jerome Ford. I have no interest whatsoever in Austin Eckler. Next on the list, Eagles rookie running back Will Shipley. And this is just a pure, this is mostly because of a camp report, but he's a guy I loved on film coming out of college. He fell in the draft a little bit, fell onto a pretty decent situation, all things considered, outside of him having an obvious bell cow back starting ahead of him. He is priced as an ultra cheap handcuff back. I think he will get snaps. I think he looked really good in the receiving game. So he might be like a third down back where he's getting a lot of dump offs, a lot of passes. He might have that kind of like Roschon Johnson role like we saw last year, where Roschon like quietly caught like 43 passes, I think it was, this past season, which is valuable when you're getting a guy at such a low cost. Will Shipley is a guy you just have to be drafting if you need a running back in the last round. He's going around guys that I don't even know how to pronounce their names. Devontae Walker, JJ McCarthy is probably not going to start 17 games this season. We'll see if he's lucky. Russell Wilson, coming off of a calf injury, seems like he'll be the lead back there. So if you need a quarterback, if you're really desperate for a third quarterback, or God forbid a second quarterback, take Russ. But if you did a 0 RB build and you just need depth in the running back position, Will Shipley is a must draft here in the last round in best ball drafts. This next one will be another camp report guy, Deneric Prince. Everyone was assuming Clyde Edwards-Helaire was going to take the second role in the running back room in Kansas City under, of course, Isaiah Pacheco, who's an absolute stud, will be the bell cow for them, in my opinion, this year. And everyone was taking CEH as kind of that secondary role. CEH has been a little bit banged up from what I understand coming into camp, kind of reading the tea leaves. You don't get official injury reports from where we're sitting, but sounds like Deneric Prince is going to be the guy there in Kansas City. If Isaiah Pacheco goes down, he'll inherit a big role, and it's just good to have Chiefs on your roster. Even Clyde fell into the end zone a few times last year with his low overall opportunity in terms of the reps he got. But Deneric Prince, I think he's, again, going to be a breather back, a great guy to get if you're looking for depth in your running back position. If you did a 0 R build, or if you got a lot of guys early, you need that 4th or 5th option on your bench. I like having 5 running backs, but if you 4th or 5th option, if you're really, really desperate, Deneric Prince is going to rise, and he's going to keep rising because he's on this Kansas City Chiefs offense. So keep drafting him now. He is currently going at 208, and he's going right around guys like Bo Nix, who it's going to be a bad offense no matter which way you look at it, in my opinion. I like Colby Parkinson, but guys I don't really understand how to say their name out loud, so I'm not going to attempt into a microphone. Deneric Prince, great guy to get, and a guy who's going to keep on rising in value as we go on in this season. Now for the guy I'm least excited to talk about is Chase Brown. Some people got after me in the comment section about my take on Chase Brown. I don't love his film. I don't think there's a lot of statistics to get me excited about Chase Brown and his outlook. Zach Moss, in my opinion, is a far superior back. But at the end of the day, do I really trust this coaching staff to make the right decision and put Zach Moss out there? No, I don't. And it sounds like Chase Brown is going to get a lot of opportunity with this offense. He can be a home run hitter. So I get it. I get, we're going to see some light boxes here in Cincinnati, and it might work out with Chase Brown. Whether I like it or not, I think he's going to get opportunity for this offense. So for that reason, I have no choice but to add Chase Brown to this list. He is just so darn cheap. He's 113, and it sounds like he could just be the lead back on this team. So if you can get a lead back at 113 on a great offense in Cincinnati, assuming Joe Burrow doesn't get injured like he does every other year, man, oh man, that is a great value to get when he's going to guys like Javonte Williams, who maybe will be the 60% snap share guy in a much worse offense. Caleb Williams is another guy who obviously we already talked about. We really like him. Brandon Cooks, Dontavian Wicks, a guy who could be anywhere from the best receiver on the team to like the 5th best receiver in Green Bay. Brandon Cooks getting old, lucked into a lot of touchdowns last year. Yeah, I think Jake Ferguson is going to get most of those opportunities this year. So Chase Brown, I think, is a great value to get here at 113. Another camp report guy, but a guy I've been drafting all offseason because I was expecting this camp report to come out, will be Tyler Algier. He is, of course, still backing up Bijan Robinson in Atlanta. They love this guy, and I think he actually improved a lot last season. I think he was a really one-dimensional running back, but he was really good at that one dimension, which was like vision, finding the right hole, and running as fastly as possible in a straight direction through that hole. I kind of made a joke about him going into last year. Like, he was the guy who's like, his controller's broken. Like, he can't juke. He can just run and sprint in a straight line. And I saw a little bit more wiggle out of Tyler Algier, which I really like to see. Adds a little bit of a different dimension to his game, and he's getting rewarded for it. Bijan Robinson, can't stop talking about how good he is. I know Bijan's good, and he's going to get a lot of the opportunity there. But the reason I'm kind of fading him is I think Tyler Algier is going to take a lot of that volume. And when you're in an offense, I guess hopefully will be better with Kirk Cousins this year, I still don't think it's going to be any world-beating offense. So, I got to fade Bijan Robinson at his value, but I got to buy in on Tyler Algier at the massive discount you're getting him at. So it's really going to depend on your build here, because Matt Stafford is one of my most highly targeted guys. The only reason he didn't make this list because nothing changed with him. I just think that's probably going to be a top 5 offense in the league. And if you got a quarterback in a top 5 offense in the league, he should be at least being drafted, at QB 12, for goodness sakes. I get he's got injury concern, but who doesn't in this range? Deshaun Watson is going right after him. Jaleel McLaughlin, a guy I like, so I'm kind of okay with taking either of these guys, especially when I'm doing 0 RB build. I'm taking Tyler Algier or Jaleel McLaughlin, whoever's kind of sitting there for me. It's late in drafts, so people aren't paying close attention. Players fall, especially if people kind of corner themselves into an early, robust running back build, and they have to pick and choose quarterbacks and wide receivers and tight ends in this range. Guys like this can fall in the draft. So just like keep an eye on these guys falling way past where they should. I think you get a value even if Bijan's healthy here. And if Bijan goes down for any period of time this season, you just got a guy in Tyler Algier that's just going to absolutely win you fantasy football championships in this best ball format. And we'll end on another running back who's just not getting his respect. This guy is going to extremely fly up boards very, very quickly in, I think, a pretty short period of time once everyone kind of catches up and figures out what's going on over there in Carolina. Chuba Hubbard is, I think, in my opinion, going to be the lead back there to start the season. And I think it's extremely likely, and I think it's kind of most likely that he will be the lead back there all season. Jonathan Brooks, he's missing so much. There was reports, the reason everyone was so excited about him, there were reports, and people liked his film in college. There were reports that he was going to be ready to start training camp. He's on the PUP now. And now you're not here. It's like radio silence. It's like we were like, for sure, this guy is going to be ready for week 1. And now we're looking at him like, oof, this is going to be a tough season. I get it. He's young. I get it. He can come back from it. At the end of the day, he wasn't as good as Roschon in college. That's why he didn't start until his last year with Texas. And now look at where we are. He got injured. Roschon's healthy to enter the season, and Roschon's being drafted after Jonathan Brooks, which I think is an absolute travesty and just a logic brain melter that just doesn't compute with me. And I think Chuba Hubbard's just going to get this job and maintain it for the whole season. What if Jonathan Brooks doesn't look the same 1 year after the ACL? What if he doesn't learn the offense? It's an NFL offense. He's a rookie running back. What if they don't trust him to block? What if they don't trust him to run the right route? I mean, even Jahmyr Gibbs struggled with this, and he went through a whole camp with the Lions last year. And he's obviously in a whole different planet than what Jonathan Brooks's ceiling even is if he does come in healthy. So I am fading Jonathan Brooks, and for that same reason, I have to be buying in on Chuba Hubbard, especially where he's going. Hunter Henry is going to be probably on one of the worst offenses in the league this year. Aaron Rodgers, I'm an Aaron Rodgers stan. I love his receivers, but he's got a really slow pace of play. He likes slowing things down, and I don't expect to be any different. And of course, J.K. Dobbins, a guy that I think is also rising on. So I guess what this is becoming is a hero RB or zero RB bro episode, because that's what it really is. You can get a lot of very valuable guys that will put up points this fantasy football season, whether they're in a good position in terms of the offenses that they're on and the value that you're getting them at, or they're guys that are just maybe not on the best offense in the world, but they're just going to get a bunch of volume. They're going to be like a mini James Conner guy in the back of these drafts. And I think if you draft them now is the time to be drafting those zero RB, those hero RB builds. Be like water. If Derrick Henry falls to you in like the 5th round and you're like, oh, I already have Kyron Williams, draft Derrick Henry too. Like, don't be an idiot. But I think there is a lot of viability to be the hero RB, the zero RB bro, where you take 1 or 0 guys early on, wait for like Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones as your first running back, and just stack your lineup full of decent guys, 6 decent guys on your roster that'll just score for you. Somebody will start, and then your wide receiver room that'll be stacked. Having like Xavier Worthy as your 5th wide receiver will just dominate the league for you. You'll have a lot of points coming from that position and the flex position as well. Thank you guys for listening. Please leave a like. Tell me what you think in the comments section. Please subscribe to the channel and check out some of the content that we put out in the past. I just did 2 different fade episodes for the channel, so go ahead and check those out. And stay tuned for us this season. We're going to have a really, really fun time. This will be our 2nd year doing the channel and kind of our 1st year going in to the football season where we know what the hell we're doing. Thank you. We'll see you next time.